what we didn't know was just how much leftists had infiltrated local police. Let's discuss what I just detailed in the preamble. Portland and Chicago police have been instructed to betray their oaths, their communities, and their country by siding with criminals and terrorists. The computer-aided dispatch shows the Chicago chief of patrol ordered officers not to respond to a Saturday incident where federal agents were rammed and then trapped by 10 vehicles. And in Portland, the police there are doing Antifa's lawless bidding. Your father has pledged to protect Americans from the lawless left, criminals and terrorists. How's this all going to end, do you think?
Not well for those cities, but it hasn't been going well for those cities for far too long because of that kind of leftist leadership from the top. That said, I've been recently in Chicago talking with actual police officers, not the guys that are taking orders from the mayor to sow chaos and discord, but from the doorkeepers, the actual guys doing that work, and they're totally dismayed. I mean, they want to do their job. They want to uphold the law, but they're not being allowed to by leftist leadership. We've seen this time and time again. They apply rules, they create new ones if it's against conservatives or against law-abiding, decent citizens. If it's against actual citizens as opposed to illegals, that's what they do. It doesn't ever end. And the problem is now they're exposing themselves for just how broken they are, just how sick they're willing to go. These things are absolutely disgusting. They want to call someone who took a selfie somewhere within 200 miles of D.C. an insurrectionist on January 6th, but directly threatening to withhold help from federal law enforcement doing their job. That's insurrection.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Speaking of how far, how low they'll sink, the Democrats' Schumer shutdown rolls on as Democrats are insisting on monies being restored to cover health care for illegal aliens. On this issue, it appears the GOP is united against the Democrat Party and the shutdown. Do you think who do you think is winning the PR battle in all this as far as the American people are concerned?
Listen, I think the Republicans are winning, no doubt. I mean, even some of the leftist media, shockingly, had to be like, well, but there is some stuff in here about giving it to illegals. They don't tell the truth. They don't get into how bad it is. But I think Americans who are struggling, to get by, still trying to get through the disasters of Biden, we're in a recovery, but that doesn't happen overnight. That takes time. Those Americans don't want hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars going to people who are not paying into those systems. It's broken. And all you have to do is read the language of the bill and you understand exactly who's right. Democrats want to give health care to illegals. It's what they want to do. All the way back to 2020, where literally every single Democrat presidential candidate, in the primary, raise their hand. Hey, I want to do this. Okay, that's the most radical of them, and it's the most moderate of them. This is Democrat Party policy. They got to take care of those that they want to put on the voter rolls because they've ostracized everyone else in America. So they need someone to vote for them, especially those, I guess, who haven't paid in this system. So they can promise them a lot of stuff, and maybe they'll get a couple of votes.
Oh, so true. Speaking of that shutdown, your father is blasting the Karl Rove Never Trump network for letting lies about the Democrats' health care demands go unchecked. He wrote on True Social, why is Fox News and Peter Doocy putting on Democrat Senator Mark Kelly to talk about totally unabated or unchallenged health care? The fake spin is so bad for Republicans that it is hard to believe that we win. Fox should either get on board or get off board now. But at this point, it just doesn't make any difference to me. What's your read, not only on the Karl Rove Never Trump network, but on the press in general? It does seem they go out of their way to validate the views or make legitimate the views of the Democrats' contentions that somehow this isn't about health care for illegal aliens. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it is about health care for illegal aliens. That's very clear. But that's the problem with some of these things. The conservatives try so hard they want to show both sides. Now, they let someone go unfettered for hours talking about these things without anyone pushing back, without any resistance. They allow them to spew their narrative, which is, as we've seen for the last few years, all lies. But that's what happens when you have sort of a more rhino network. They want to be loved. They just want the power. They don't care. It's about clickbait. So they do that. Whereas the left, I mean, they just go full all in, no matter what. We're playing different games as always. So it's a shame to actually see that. Honestly, I don't watch it anymore because it is so ridiculous. They try so hard to be unbiased that they're actually biased towards conservatives at this point. It's pretty ridiculous, but that shouldn't surprise us. I mean, these are networks that banned banned. I know I was banned for 2.5 years. I'm barely on anymore. I know my father was banned. They were doing, giving lap dances to other presidential candidates because they wanted a puppet candidate. They wanted someone that answered only to them and the people at the top. They don't get that with Trump, and they're upset about it.
True enough, true enough. And it's been every real conservative's experience, I would say. Over the weekend, another story got a lot of attention. Democrat Jay Jones, running for the Virginia Attorney General position, was caught in text messages calling for the deaths of his political opponent and the political opponent's family. To my knowledge, not one prominent Democrat has called on Jones to get out of that race. Your father has. But in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, what does it say about the modern Democrat Party that they can't look at death threats to a political opponent as something that ought to be condemned?
Well, it shows that there is no moderate Democrat Party anymore. Okay, I talked about this extensively with Charlie. I mean, Charlie was the most reasonable of all of us. Charlie was the guy willing to take his rather huge platform and on a daily basis give it to his biggest detractors and let them try to make their points. We're not playing the same game. These guys, in his own words, they want you and your kids dead. The fact that it's not a single Democrat that I've seen, I think you're right, not a single one has come out and said, that's disgusting. It calls for him to get out of the race, because they care more about power than decency. They care more about power than the rule of law. It's why they're doing what they're doing for illegals. If they can't get power one way, they'll get it another. This is just rinse and repeat. And in the wake of Charlie's death, who's one of my closest friends in the world, someone I spoke to every day for the last decade, it's truly disgusting. They're enabling it. I mean, I got into some people gave me a hard time. I said, watch the video of what happens to Charlie. They said, no, it's so gruesome. It's so terrible. And it is. It is gruesome. It is terrible. It's disgusting. But it also shows you just how far the radical left is willing to go. And the reality is there are very few people, there may be great moderate Democrats in middle America, but they ain't running for office. They can't get elected without taking those positions because they won't get the money out of New York and California and the Soros network unless they're the most radical of the radicals. So there is no moderate representation left in the Democrat Party. It's all radicals. And this one wants you and your kids dead. That's pretty sick.
Folks, I thank God for my wonderful wife, my kids, my country, the greatest nation ever. And Americans like you who believe in the truth, the Chris Salcedo Show will never stop fighting for you.
The Chris Salcedo Show, for the news you need to know.